Yeah, no federal holiday for the ICE agents. You take a look behind us here, you'll see a small group of ICE agents right now staging just past Gate E of Dodger Stadium.
Okay, I saw this headline and we have to talk about this. Apparently, ICE agents were requesting Dodger Stadium to use their parking lot to prepare for their missions. The LA Dodgers are saying they denied permission to ICE. We'll get to that in a second.
You know, people covering their faces, impersonating police officers, it erodes trust in law enforcement and it undermines community safety. That's really what this bill is about.
And California is trying to pass a bill where law enforcement can't cover their faces. Okay, so we have a lot to cover, and I think you'll notice a common theme here. California is doing whatever it takes to not want to work with Homeland Security, ICE. Now, before we start the video, make sure to please like the video. It's the #1 way you guys can help this channel, but it also helps others see the videos as well. It's a massive help. Here we go.
Here's what it looked like earlier this morning. Dozens of ICE agents gathering with their faces hidden, wearing tactical gear. This was shot around 9 o'clock this morning before the agents headed out to various locations in the area.
I do find it interesting the media had to point out they're covering their faces and they're wearing full tactical gear. That really ties in together what we'll be talking about. But LA Dodgers, here's what they had to say. This morning, ICE agents came to Dodger Stadium and requested permission to access the parking lot. They were denied entry to the grounds by the organization. Tonight's game will be played as scheduled.
We're hearing from elected officials that LA Council District 1 workers alerted LAPD of the staging at Dodgers Gate.
We've been in communication with the mayor's office, with the Dodgers, with Dodger Security, about seeing if they can get them moved off their private property. Public property is different, but private property, businesses and corporations have the power to say, not on my property. And so we're waiting to see that movement happen here.
Homeland Security faces a very big challenge in Los Angeles. Unlike in other sanctuary cities, the mayor directly talks to these volunteer groups, and the volunteer groups also have access to local elected officials. Everybody talks to everybody who's anti-Homeland Security and ICE operations. And we are able to see in real time, these groups have access to the LA Dodgers, and they kicked out Homeland Security immediately.
You haven't heard if the Dodgers have told them to get off? Or?
My understanding is that yes, there have been communications to get them to leave.
Now, in the meantime, a few dozen immigration activists have gathered here as well. Gate E at Dodger Stadium garnering a lot of attention, though there are no signs of LAPD recently other than a LAPD helicopter that flew over a couple minutes ago.
Now, if you haven't already, make sure to please subscribe to my channel. We cover unique events like this all the time, and we go into detail, and we make sure to hold our elected officials accountable. Let's continue. Now, Homeland Security has responded and said this had nothing to do with the Dodgers. Our vehicles were in the stadium parking lot very briefly, unrelated to any operation or enforcement. So what the heck were they doing at LA Dodger Stadium? Okay, so we're being told that Homeland Security, they were using the parking lot as a staging area. And when you look at the posture of the agents, you can tell they're just hanging out, and it doesn't look like they're trying to engage in any operation. So it does line up with what Homeland Security is saying. Now, the big question is Homeland Security allowed to use a private area to stage their vehicles or mission plan? Generally speaking, absolutely not. Now, there's a lot of people questioning, LA Dodgers, are you trying to hide something? Why wouldn't you want to help out federal agents? That's the political discussion I'll let you guys have down in the comments.
Yeah, if I can just elaborate, you know, people covering their faces, impersonating police officers, it erodes trust in law enforcement and it undermines community safety. That's really what this bill is about. And I think many law enforcement officials, legitimate law enforcement officials, would welcome putting in safeguards to ensure transparency and accountability.
Okay, so now we have California trying to pass a law where law enforcement officers, if you're operating in California, you cannot wear a mask. You have to remove the mask. So let's continue this conversation.
And I think the concern is a lot that's happening. There are a lot of people who are engaged in these enforcement actions, and we don't know, are they federal? Are they contractors? Are they local law enforcement? And so we're requiring that people not have to wear masks except for some very limited exceptions, and that there be identifying information ensures that we know who is involved here. It's also critical to uphold our state and local laws, including our our sanctuary law, SB 54, which says that local law enforcement are not going to be involved in immigration enforcement. So this is, I think, furthering the state's efforts to ensure legitimate law enforcement purposes and to protect Californians.
Okay, so we have a lot to pick apart. First things first, let's talk about Supremacy Clause. Now, a Supremacy Clause is simply telling us that you have federal laws and state laws, but the federal laws supersede the state laws. But when it comes to Supremacy Clause, what this means is that covering your face or not covering your face, California cannot tell anybody within a federal jurisdiction what to do.
And I think the concern is a lot that's happening. There are a lot of people who are engaged in these enforcement actions, and we don't know, are they federal, are they contractors, are they local law enforcement? And so we're requiring that people not have to wear masks except for some very limited exceptions.
Okay, number 2. Apparently California wants a way to be able to identify you as a law enforcement officer to make sure, hey, are you local or are you FBI? Now, I also want to point out, typically you do have, verification badges and, ID badges, but again, it looks like they want to take it to an all-new level of just removing whatever protection you have on your face.
And that there be identifying information ensures that we know who is involved here. It's also critical to uphold our state and local laws, including our sanctuary law, SB 54, which says that local law enforcement are not going to be involved in immigration enforcement. So this is, I think, furthering the state's efforts to ensure legitimate law enforcement purposes and to protect Californians.
So in that 15 seconds, a lot was tied in together. He's talking about making sure that local law enforcement are doing legitimate operations. Now, California does have the state law. They are a sanctuary city, and then every city also has their sanctuary city laws. So pretty much you have the division of local law enforcement. They cannot work with federal agents as far as these deportation rates. I think a lot of you know that. But again, what this all looks like is this push for the taking off the mask. If they can't do it with federal agents, let's at least do it with local agents as far as state police, sheriffs, or metro police, things like that. So let me know how you guys feel about all of this down in the comments.
When it comes to law enforcement, a uniform, name tag, and badge number are meant to signal authority and accountability. But during recent immigration raids, agents dressed in plain clothes, wearing face coverings, and without any visible ID have raised alarms.
Law enforcement officers are public servants, and people should be able to see their faces, see who they are, know who they are. Otherwise, there's no transparency and no accountability.
Okay, so here's where things get interesting. Homeland Security has already straight up said, we're not going to remove the masks, you can't tell us what to do. But also, Homeland Security has had to face challenges like this.
Crackdown across the Middle Tennessee area and the political fallout after the Nashville mayor's office briefly posts the names of some federal agents involved in the immigration operations online. The mayor's office the subject of 2 congressional investigations as a result of that.
That's right. Despite Homeland Security wearing their masks, unfortunately over in Nashville, Tennessee, you have a mayor, he's saying it was an accident where he released the names of the Homeland Security officers in a public database. It's just something to think about as we continue this story.
The fallout continues after Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell's office published the names of federal ICE agents before taking them down. Tonight, Mayor O'Connell isn't backing down, saying his actions were about transparency, not targeting.
It's not a process that I would characterize as doxing. It was an unintentional release of names that were already part of a public record.
The mayor pointed to Executive Order 30, which requires city departments, including Metro Police, to report federal immigration communications to the Office of New Americans.
And I covered this on my channel. We're talking like the actual names of the officers in this database, everything they did in Nashville, what they were doing as far as an arrest and things like that. Now again, according to the mayor, he's saying it was an accident and he's just trying to be transparent, but I'm trying to paint a picture for you guys. Homeland Security does not trust mayors like that. They do not trust California. They do not trust anybody who's trying to be transparent if that means giving away information of the agents who are doing this job.
Was then posted publicly. The mayor says the real issue is masked, unmarked federal agents operating in the city.
I'm far more concerned about the overall dynamic we have about unmarked, unidentifiable, masked people whisking people into vehicles.
Congressman Andy Ogles is slamming the mayor's actions in a post on X. Ogles claims federal ICE agents and their families are now in danger because of the mayor and says the federal investigation into O'Connell's action is far from over.
So again, everything ties to this face mask thing. Now, Tom Homan actually talks about the face masks. Here's what he has to say.
You know, like I said many times, these elected officials or these non-government organizations, they can't cross the line either. I mean, we got people like, Hakeem Jeffries saying he's going to dox ICE employees, ICE agents out there with masks on. They're wearing masks to protect themselves and their families because they've been doxxed, their families been doxxed, their life's been threatened, their families have been threatened. I know myself, I had over 1,000 protesters at my house. I expect that as the borders are, but these men and women are putting their lives on line every day. They arrested a lot of bad people yesterday and today. They arrested child sex offenders. They arrested people convicted of robbery. They arrested public safety, not only significant public safety threats, but national security threats. They arrested gang members. We're making Los Angeles safer. And Mayor Bass ought to be thanking us for making her city safer. And the term migrant, as Joe Concha rightfully said earlier, they're illegal aliens. There are illegal aliens in this country, and we welcome. We're the most giving country in the world. But these are illegal aliens who committed a crime by crossing this border illegally, then yet committed another crime. Again, yesterday's about a criminal investigation into money laundering, tax evasion, and some of the funds going to cartels in Mexico and Colombia that fund their operations of sending narcotics to this country, killing American people. This is about enforcing the law, and again, we're not going to apologize for doing it. We're stepping up. She says they're going to mobilize. Well, guess what? We're already ahead of the game. We're already mobilizing. We're going to bring National Guard in tonight. We're going to continue doing our job. We're going to push back on these people, and we're going to force the law.
Now, I also want to point out, it's not only California who's trying to pass this law on the state level. We're talking a possibility of it maybe possibly getting pushed through on a federal level.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of issues here. There's equal protection issues, due process issues under the Constitution, whether or not they're following the protocols of the federal government. I will be introducing a bill that will prevent Homeland Security officers from hiding or concealing their identities and wearing masks, because we don't live in a country, an authoritarian country, where we have secret police who are masked, who are intimidating, who are scaring people. That's the stuff of authoritarian states. That is not the stuff of that's not how the United States operates. And that's really where this is breaking down, is the combination of these Gestapo-like tactics with the fact that these are nonviolent, non-criminal immigrants doing things the right way. And that's why you're seeing protests all around the country. It's not that they're protesting that people who have convictions are being removed. They're protesting that they're going after all of our communities, and they're undermining the legal process. If you want to reform asylum, come talk to me. I would love to do that. It's a broken process, but we have to follow the law, and Donald Trump is not following the law. He is inciting more fear, he's using more intimidation, and he is trying to inflame a problem so that he can, in my view, say that this is an insurrection, and that he can essentially say that the United States is a victim of some invasion and insurrection, which is completely bogus. But that's where he's going with this. And he's trying to make things worse with, I think, illegally sending in the military, which clearly violates the Posse Comitatus Act. And that's the problem that he's going to run into. And there's a court appearance today where we'll shed some light on that.
And to your point, President Trump has mused repeatedly in recent days about possibly calling for the Insurrection Act, evoking it in Los Angeles. We, of course, will be watching that. Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman of New York.
Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know that was a long clip, but I appreciate if you are still here. I wanted to show you guys the full context as to what exactly was trying to be pushed, why, and how, and when. Anyway, thank you again. God bless, and we'll see you all later. Peace.